Shalom, Yasha'Allah. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Kwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that's pushing the great gospel with sincerity and truth. This is your brother Tazakiah Yahweh from the Great Millstone Synonaplis camp. Coming at you another lesson through the spirit of power Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and Lord willing to be edifying. Got various little articles and little quick articles that, Lord willing through the spirit be able to hit them all, for a camp or whatever. But yeah, just a few, just a little segment of news and prophecy, so to speak. So this says Putin is mobilizing 300,000 more soldiers to fight his war, but Ukrainians feel hope, not fear. And it says the Kremlin's decision will make the war real for thousands of Russian families and show it is failing to hold the front line, as they say. This came out Thursday, the 22nd, September 22nd, the year 2022, the year Yahweh Bashem Shai turned it up. And it reads, in his speech on Wednesday, Vladimir Putin announced that the Kremlin would be mobilizing 300,000 military reservists to serve in Ukraine. He insisted that Russia was merely defending itself in its territories and that the West did not want to see peace in Ukraine. Paradoxically, the response of many Ukrainians to Putin's speech was relief and even hope. For all these months, the Kremlin has wanted Russian people to remain distant from the military campaign. The state will leave you alone so long as you stay away from politics and demonstrate the indifference towards the war. The mobilization might change this. Some 300,000 more families will start to feel the war personally. The move also confirms that Russia will be unable to defend territories it has occupied without more personnel. The Russian army desperately needs more troops to hold a front line that stretches for 1,500 miles. On the day of Putin's speech, around 1,300 people were detained across Russia for protesting against the call for new military recruits. This was a smaller number compared to the anti-war protests that took place right after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Still, it is not their opinion that matters, but the silent Russian majority who have tolerated or even supported the war playing out on their TV screens. Now, this came out, last Thursday. Just not like a couple of days ago, there's video surfacing that pretty much Putin is going to prisons, rallying up prisoners, like I say, like, hey, if you come fight this war with us or do this and that, hey, if you serve for at least 6 months, then you'll be pardoned. You'll be free to do whatever you want, And there's definitely some strict measures if you try to, how can I say? The Wadi How Bashimel shot, I believe, I see a green chariot right now. That's what I believe. It could be, wow. But, it's like, it's like, get back on this. So, yeah, like, they, recruiting prisoners or whatever, to fight this war. So, hey, if a prisoner here, like, hey, man, you can fight 6 months, some of these prisoners been there for years, saying, we got long sentences. So, I guarantee you a lot of them will rally to, hey, man, let me go fight so I can receive freedom. I believe that was a chariot, so, but, so, it's we know we had green ones visit us a couple weeks ago, but it says, so like, think about that. You got a 20-year sentence, 40-year sentence, 50-year sentence, and you get told that I could just serve 6 months and be released. Hey, how many, since it makes sense for you to go serve versus sitting in that prison rotting in horrible, terrible conditions, because them Russian prisons, I watched this show, World's Toughest Prisons, man, it's not sweet over there. Just saying, like, they make the Babylon prisons like a cakewalk. But getting back on topic, it says, so they, like I said, there's more of a rally up for more, more troops. But then I just seen a little thing from somebody that we watching that said Ukraine is now Russia, all this and that. So, hey, I got to look into that to get more information on that. But for the time being, this article, this was what's going on in case no one, was aware of it. Vladimir Zelensky recently told a journalist at a Ukrainian newspaper that intelligence suggests that Kremlin has already started mobilizing reserve troops, but it will take another month for Russians to join the combat time that Ukrainians can use to regain many territories as possible before winter arrives. Liberating occupied territories isn't just about saving locals from the atrocities committed by Russian troops. The further the front line recedes, the safer that towns in central, southern, and eastern Ukraine will be. Through a successful counteroffensive, Ukrainian troops have already reclaimed large portions of territory in the Kharkiv region. The sham referendums that have been uprootably planned in the 4 occupied regions also tells us more about the Kremlin's predicament. These votes have no influence on the status of these territories, though Russia may be hoping they will help in the annexation of these regions. Polls held in support of the referendums referendums look even more ridiculous. A Ukrainian news service obtained a document showing that in the Kharkiv region, the Kremlin planned to stage a forced referendum for joining the Russian Federation on November 7, registering 75% support in its favor. See, the document was dated August 24th. A few weeks later, the territory was liberated by Ukrainian forces. It's important to stress that any data supposedly showing support for an occupying power can't be taken seriously. In the places where Ukrainians are tortured and executed, there is no way to express opinions. The resistance against the occupation itself is a less reported phenomenon, as resistance is extremely dangerous. Nonetheless, it has been taking place in occupied territories. Kremlin-appointed local leaders are marginal. Local investigative reporters working for the organization I belong to have been forced to work in exile and can hardly find out who these leaders are or learn about their dubious histories. See, yeah, well, guess we can knock that out. The experience of the occupied Crimea is also a reminder that Russia's real aim in the occupied territories may be to establish a military base for attacking Ukraine. The annexation of southern Ukrainian regions such as Melitopol, Berdyansk, whatever. I'm not about to, whatever. Y'all see it. Kharkova, whatever. Will boost morale at home in Russia, yet often Russian soldiers are not even able to pronounce the names of the places they occupy. Russia may also have practical reasons for occupation. It can forcibly recruit locals, which will be against the Geneva Convention, and use them as cannon fodder in further military campaigns. Instead of thinking about Putin's speech, many Ukrainians celebrate the exchange of 215 Ukrainian prisoners of war that took place on the same day. Among them were Azaz battalion fighters, members of the National Guard, the head of the Mariupol Patrol Police, and a 9 months pregnant paramedic who had spent 6 months in prison. Exhausted, thin, and wearing the same clothes they had on when captured in May 2022, many have had a chance to call their relatives for the first time in months. The best soil in the world, one of the fighters said, kneeling down and kissing the land. 10 foreigners, including 5 British citizens who were fighting on the Ukrainian side, were brought to Dubai. 5 Ukrainian commanders were brought to Turkey under the guarantee of the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan that they wouldn't be permitted to return to Ukraine until the end of the war. More than 2,000 defenders of Mariupol were in prison. Many remain in captivity after the attack of Olenivka prison this summer. Where many Ukrainian prisoners of war have been jailed, it's not clear who is still alive. The 250 prisoners were released because Ukraine agreed to give back a few recently captured Russian officers, and Viktor Medvedchuk, a friend to Putin, and his key man in Ukraine who had been charged with treason. Some Ukrainians would like to have seen him serve his term in prison, but the majority couldn't care less what Russia does, so long as it helps to save the lives of its own people. This is the same sentiment that may have felt about other recent Kremlin moves. Regardless of what Putin says, Ukrainians are going their own way, according to their own plan. Right now, that plan is a counter, offensive. But as I said, this is, the main, thing about this was, the mobilization of the 300,000, troops, because ultimately, if you don't understand the times that we're in, you are definitely in a time period of war, right? Saying war is brewing, whether you like it or not. I got something else real quick right here from, this was September 26, 2022. It says patrol spots Chinese, Russian, and naval ships off Alaska and the island. It says a U.S. Coast Guard ship on routine patrol in the Bering Sea came across a guided missile cruiser from China, officials said Monday. But it turned out the cruiser wasn't alone, as it sailed about 86 miles north of Alaska's Kiska Island on September 19. 2 other Chinese naval ships and 4 Russian Navy vessels, including the destroyer, were spotted in single formation. The patrol boat, known as a cutter called Kimball, discovered. The Honolulu-based Kimball, a 418-foot vessel, observed as the ships broke formation and dispersed. A C-130 Hercules provided air support for the Kimball from the Coast Guard station in Kodiak. While the formation has operated in accordance with international rules and norms, we will meet presence to ensure there are no disruptions to U.S. interests in the maritime environment around Alaska, Rear Admiral Nathan Moore, 17th Coast Guard, Yeah, I knew it was a little more. 17th Coast Guard, oh my God. 17th Coast Guard District Commander said. It says the Coast Guard said Operation Frontier Sentinel guidelines call for meeting presence with presence when strategic competitors operate in and around U.S. waters. The Kimball will continue to monitor the area. The Coast Guard did not immediately respond to questions about the incident from the Associated Press. The Chinese and Russian formation came a month after NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg warned about China's interest in the Arctic and Russia's military buildup there. Stoltenberg said Russia has set up a new Arctic command and has opened hundreds of new and former Soviet era Arctic military sites. Soviet era, Arctic military Soviet sites, including the deep water ports and airfields. China has declared itself a near Arctic state and plans to build the world's largest icebreaker, he said. Beijing and Moscow have also pledged to intensify practical cooperation in the Arctic. This forms part of a deepening strategic partnership that challenges our values and interests, Stoltenberg said in a visit to Canada's north. This wasn't the first time Chinese naval ships have sailed near Alaska waters. In September 2021, Coast Guard cutters in the Bering Sea and North Pacific Ocean can encounter Chinese ships about 50 miles off the Aleutian Islands. So there's another thing, that could, definitely can allude to tensions, in wars and those rumors of wars and, just military buildups, right? And then last but not least, we have the most recent thing, looks like it. With this right here, I'm not going to read too much of it, but just read a little segment, It says, Biden calls Nord Stream pipeline leaks a deliberate act of sabotage. And if you've been here recently, that that Nord Stream pipeline that pretty much provides a lot of fuel, gas and fuel, whatever the case, to much of Europe, it was sabotaged. It experienced a leak, but it had 3 leaks, 3 explosions in 3 different places. So definitely don't sound like an accident to me. Definitely sound like an act of sabotage, right? And this came out September 30th, 2022, the year Yahweh Shemashah turned it up. And it reads, President Joe Biden on Friday called the leaks in the Nord Stream pipelines a deliberate act of sabotage and accused Russia and President Vladimir Putin of pumping out disinformation and lies, though he did not directly accuse Moscow for the leaks. Biden's strong words marked the first time he's directly asserted that the leaks were a result of sabotage, pushing back on Russia's narrative about the incident amid Moscow's escalated efforts to assert its claim over Ukrainian territory. On Monday, leaks were discovered in the pipelines, prompting investigations by European authorities and determined powerful underwater explosions and occurred just before the pipelines burst in several places. Biden said that the United States is working with allies to get to the bottom of precisely what happened with the leaks, and that he has already directed resources to help allies enhance protections of pipelines which funnel gas from Russia into the European Union. Let me say this, it was a deliberate act of sabotage, and now Russians are pumping out disinformation and lies. But here's the thing, I believe Biden has said something not too long ago about in regards to against this situation. And, I forgot, exactly what he had said, but it definitely made it seem like they was going to put like a stop to the pipeline. They was going to do something along those lines. They was going to do something to it, whatever. Or just pretty much make sure something didn't happen in regarding to it. I don't like I said, don't quote me on what I'm saying, but I know he said something in regards to that. Like they didn't really like the whole thought of a Russian pipeline because that'll bring more influence on Russia, towards, like I said, the European Union, but this is just something else, you can look into as well. This is another thing that happened. And this is another thing that because pretty much if America is behind this, pretty much they're going to put their allies in dire straits come this winter because they're not going to have the energy, pretty much the power to heat their homes. So a lot of people going to, freeze to death, in regards to this situation, so hey, whatever the case may be, just know that these are all things that most definitely can lead to war, more rumors of wars, right? And this also could lead to the nations turning against Babylon the Great, which I believe they is behind it, but I'm just a man. But this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. And it says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? And we understand that the wars going on, like I said, like it's talking about the Ukrainian situation. You got the wars in Syria and those other war-torn places, in the Middle East, Iran and Israel going against each other, China in the South China Sea, going go against like Taiwan, Japan, Australia, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And it's all mannerisms of, rumors of war, saying we're gonna do this, say we're gonna do that, build ups, military, exercises, more weapons, military weapons being bought for defense items. These are all leading up in preparation for what? War, right? And then the actual war is going on as well, right? It says, see that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So guess what? War has to come. The build up and the talk of war, the stage being set for war has to come. But even when those things happen, the end is not yet. But we understand that last war, World War III, that's when the visitation of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Yahweh Shai gonna crack them clouds with the holy angels, and then it's gonna be on and popping. At that time period, then we know that the elect gonna be delivered, and the rest of the world gonna be a lot of judgment. They're gonna be put to death, right? It say, for nation shall rise against nation, and as we see nation against each other, kingdom against each other, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, right? All these things, from the wars, rumors of wars, and all these things, these are all the beginning of sorrow. So these are the beginnings, these buildups and stuff like that. These are all the beginnings of war, right? Because you are in evil times, right? Bad times. As Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 5 go into, thus saith Yahweh Bashim Shai, Lord power, and evil, and only evil, behold, is come. Only bad times are coming. If you hoping for peace, if you hoping for stability, you hoping to join hands and come by y'all together, that's not part of the will of Yahweh Bashim Shai. And you're going to be left out there to dry and be destroyed, right? Because you are adverse, you are against the will of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Therefore, you'll become a casualty of these said wars that's going to come to pass, as they already has been, right? And end is come, the end is come, and watch for thee, behold, it is come. Because this is the end. We're in the end all be all right now, right? This is it. We are in those latter times. There ain't no 100 years, another 50 years. Ain't no, none of that's going popping. None of that's popping off. None of that's happening, right? And we're going to jump down real quick right here. Verse 25, destruction cometh, right? War brings destruction. So destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. There's not going to be no peace. You know what I'm saying? There ain't going to be no peace. The only time peace gonna come when the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans are put in the position of power to reign in righteousness. But as far as the heathens, especially Esau, Edom in power, ain't no peace coming to the land, to this world, right? Jeremiah, I think it's verse 22. Right? It say, what? A sound of battles in the land and of great destruction. The beats, the war drums are beating right now. That's the sound of battle. When you hear about these buildups, you hear about these alliances being made, and you hear about, fallouts with this and then joining with them, and this weapon getting purchased, these getting purchased, and this and that. Man, it's a sound of battle going on, right? Them war drums are beating right now. You understand? That's what's going on right now. You people crazy. Keep worrying about the next Netflix series and all this and that. Worry about the next Jordans, the next game, next this. And don't get me wrong, brothers and sisters who may watch, these various things on TV as a pastime. You're not wicked, but I'm talking about the people who are currently all in and in tune and care about that. They'll kill you over these people. You know what I'm saying? Man, look. These people can get caught up out there. And a lot of you people, too, y'all going to be drafted and going to the war. That's what's going to happen to you. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, it's a sound of battle going on right now. If your spiritual eyes on, you seeing that war is being prepared, right? Like I said, I can't try to finish up right here. And this is Joel chapter 3 verse 9. They say, well, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. So the man of the Lord proclaim this among the Gentiles, you heathen nations. Prepare war, be prepared. Wake up the mighty man. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Right? Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Ain't the time to, be out there trying to harvest and, to work and till the ground on this and that. No, it's the time for war. That's what's going on right now. Let the weak say I'm strong, because why? These other nations, they possess the same weapons that Babylon the Great used to have, that instills fear around the whole entire world. They have those same things. They have those missiles. They have those warheads, right? They have the machinery, and they also got strong military ties with other superpowers, right? So these weaker nations, they ain't scared no more, because we got, like the scripture say, be thou a guard to them, Gog and Magog, right? Russia gonna be a guard unto a lot of nations, right? He gonna be big dog, big brother to them, and he gonna watch over them, right? That's why don't listen to this narrative that Ukraine and this is beating them. This look, come on now, that's madness if you ask me. Like we understand this is a stage. They got whatever going on because ultimately trying to push, they new world order. All this really is a distraction, right? But the point is, man, hey, it's time for war. It's a assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen and gather yourselves together round about, because they ultimately gonna be assembled where? In the valley of Jehoshaphat. right? As a matter of fact, that's what the next scripture gonna go. It say, thither cause like mighty ones to come down, Yahweh Shemel Shai, like I made mention, Yahweh Shai and the holy angels, they gonna come join the battle in World War III. All nations gonna stop fighting against each other, they gonna turn to fight against them and get their ass obliterated, right? It say what? Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is would be the region of the Middle East, right? For there will I sit to judge, right? All the heathen round about, and that's the great place of Yahweh Shemel Shai's judgment. That's the valley of decision, where he judged all you heathens for what they have done unto us. Start with Yahweh Shai and the rest of us all on down, even the disrespect and blasphemy against Yahweh, right? He's going to judge you, and he's going to plead for you, he's going to destroy you, right? And that's what the nations are getting, getting saddled up and built up right now, as far as these rumors and these wars that's going on right now. This is all part of the plan of Yahweh Shemel Shai. So as we say, prepare for war. It's inevitable. You going to World War III, my nigga. Where some other monoxes out of South Carolina, right? So you're going to war. Destruction is going to come to you. And I'm ending off right here. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 18. It say, what? The beginning of sorrows. And, well, woe is me who will deliver me in those days, right? Because terrible time periods are coming. Terrible time period. Terrible time is coming. Perilous time shall come, right? You know what I'm saying? So who gonna deliver me in those days? Which we believe to the spirit through reincarnation. Ezra's back here prophesying against Babylon the Great. And we know who's gonna deliver him in these days. Being of the elect, Yahweh Shemel Shai is, right? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. All these things are going to come to pass. The beginning of wars, right? War is a part of prophecy, right? It say the second woe is past and the third woe cometh quickly. That's World War III, Revelation 11:14. Right? And the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Right? What you gonna do when these evils shall come? Well, we know the elect, right? The hopeful elect, what they gonna do? They're gonna put their trust and faith in Yahweh Shemel Shai, because we understand that these things must come to pass. These bring comfort to us because we understand that this is drawing us closer and closer to the destruction of this current rulership, and then it's gonna usher in the righteous rulership that's gonna be Jacob, right? For Esau's the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of that followeth. And that's why with these things, when we hear about these things, we rejoice and be glad, because we know we're drawing closer and closer to our salvation. Lord willing, we be of the elect. But understand, man, war is inevitable. It's gonna happen. It's gonna come to pass whether you like it or not. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to the sincere Akim wa Akwafim out there listening. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekakwadash, double honors to our apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that pushes the great gospel in sincerity and truth. Shalom, Yasha Allah, Abai, Babal.